as they come. So yeah, hey everyone, it's great to host a webinar for you. This is Tushar and Lasse here. If you've watched any of our YouTube videos on consolidation or been in any of our templates, you have probably dealt with either of us before, for better or for worse, maybe. But we are the ones that have built all of the consolidation templates that you have probably seen in LiveFlow already. And really what we want to do today is to try to break down these consolidation because we know it is such a painful use case to do manually. And whilst we've built all these templates, which are great, we want to actually try to break down the templates to try to give you the insights of how they actually work under the hood. And the goal of this is really to give you the power to take them, modify them, be able to use them for yourself or for your own clients, and really get the best out of both using LiveFlow, as well as maybe get a few tips on what you can do inside Google Sheets or Excel in order to make this work better for you. So it's great to see a lot of familiar faces on the guest list that we already know. The way we will run the demo and the webinar today is we'll try to spend 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes or so, basically going through the step-by-step of how to build the consolidation model with LiveFlow from scratch. And what we will be focused on is to build a simple consolidation for two entities with the P&L. And what we will be doing is we will be doing the mapping so that we can create some summary accounts that should make it easier for like a viewer who's not inside the financials every day to see and look at the numbers. After that, then we will do an open Q&A and answer questions, go through things and see where we can be helpful. I think we will try to keep it very open and so on. So if you have any like questions in between things, please just raise your hand and then we'll try to answer it right away, because it's more fun for us if this is a dialogue and not a presentation where you're all sitting and closing your eyes at the end of the day. So we want to just make it entertaining as much as we can and try to make it engaging. So yeah, I think that's it. We will be presenting the screen in a second, and really, what we want you to pay attention to is kind of how things are done from scratch, of course, but as well as write down any notes or feedback or things that would be helpful for you and or for your clients as well on how we could enhance the consolidation features and use cases for LiveFlow. So really treat this as, because I know there's a lot of people on the attendees right now that are already using LiveFlow. So if you see anything that you feel like could be improved either in the templates or in the product, then please write it down and let us know, because we can use these sessions to work on these things as well, which is really helpful for us and for you. Cool. So let me get started here and share my screen. So we'll choose this one. Cool. So just a quick intro to LiveFlow in case someone in the audience doesn't know about LiveFlow yet. LiveFlow basically puts your advanced financial reporting on autopilot. The goal of this is to turn your spreadsheet into a scalable and real-time FP&A platform. And really our goal is to give you the power to create live financial models where you don't need to ever worry about manually updating your data and having outdated data that will just create problems for everyone. So in case you're not familiar, LiveFlow lives inside of your Google Sheets extensions and allows you to pull live data from QuickBooks into Google Sheets and or Excel and to create these live financial reports and models for you. We have, as we mentioned, we've built all of these templates, which can be very handy in case you don't want to build everything from scratch. And really, this is what we're going to go through today. So let's get started. So what we want to do here is this is the end output of what we want to build today. And what we've built here is a summary consolidated P&L and a summary consolidated P&L by month. So the only difference between these two is that here we can come in and we can select a different period where all of the data automatically updates. And down here, we have all of the data aggregated together from the two different entities. So what we're going to do is to try to go and do this from scratch. So I'll keep these two handy in case we need to reference anything back, but now we will do it from scratch. So you see that the top to bottom process. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to basically start by getting some P&L data from the underlying QuickBooks companies. So we'll now call this P&L entity 1. And then we will create a report for this. And then we'll go and do the same thing for the second entity. So here we go. And yeah, we know we are fixing this these huge amounts of money that this company has. We know that if we wish we would earn that much, but we'll get there someday. So disregard the large numbers. Then we'll choose a P&L from the second company. So we'll choose Acme US, and then we'll create this as a report as well. All right, so let's move these over a bit. Cool. So where did the last one go? Here. All right, so now we have these two. So we'll call this P&L entity 2. So now we have two different P&Ls imported, right? And now the question is, okay, so what can we then do to automatically consolidate these companies together? And the way we like to go about this is to create what we call a mapping column in between the report here. So a mapping column, basically what it does is that it allows us to create a consolidated P&L, which is displayed on an aggregated level, basically like this, instead of showing each single account on it. And the way we're going to do this is we will go ahead and we'll just create it here as well, is we'll create a column called mapped accounts. And what we are going to do is that we're then going to use some data validation that we have already created over here for these mapping accounts. So really the way you can think about this is that in here, you can select and you can name the mapped accounts exactly what you want, and then use them to reference things in the sheet. So if we go over here, we'll select mapped accounts. So what we'll do is we'll just set up a data validation here, and let me move this. So we'll choose drop down from a range, and then we'll go ahead and select the range of data that we have over here, which is here. And always make sure, like if you have seen our templates, always make sure when you do data validation referencing, don't do A3 through A16 where the data sits, but do A3 through A, because that way you will automatically grab any future items that you add in here, and you don't have to rewire this up. So if you would not have done this, and if you come in here and added a new account, this would not get picked up by the data validation. So always do that. Cool. So next up, what we'll do is we will confirm this. Let me move this. And then we'll go back to the entity here. So now we have a mapped account here. So now what we can do is we can come in, select which account we want to map this to. So let's just copy paste this down here. So we'll paste special, paste data validation only, and then we get these accounts. So now what we can start to do is we can say, hey, okay, where do we want residential property sale to be mapped to? In this case, we'll choose income. And in this case, we'll also choose income. And now one thing to pay attention to here is we'll show you how this can go wrong in a minute, but you only want to map the underlying accounts here, not the total income. And the reason is if you map this to income, the formula, what it's going to do when we set this up, is going to sum up these three values. And now this is not the same as the actual total income. So just have that in mind. The way to solve this is to map this to total income instead. That way, this will not happen. Cool. So once we've done this, we can go ahead and do the same thing for the other entities. So I'll just copy paste this to here. And that messed up a little bit. So we'll just redo this again and just do it for one. Here we go. And then we can do the same thing again and hold this down. and do data validation only. So, and by the way, in case this is new, this is often hidden in Google Sheets. I don't know why they don't do a better job of promoting it, but when you want to copy a cell to somewhere else and you don't want to copy all the formatting and everything else, highly recommend right-clicking and doing paste special. And then you can choose from a range of menus and options here, where you can either choose values only, format only, formula only, which we'll use in a second, and conditional formatting only, and data validation only, for instance. Cool. So now we can start to do some mapping on these as well. And then we are ready to go to set up the consolidated dashboard. So we'll now create a new sheet, and we'll call this the same here. So we'll call it executive summary, not summary, executive summary P&L. Okay, so what we want to build now is essentially this and get everything wired up with the live data. So let's go ahead and do that. So we like to, there's different ways, of course, how you'd like to build financial models, but we like to do it in this type of format, where we have each of the sections sort of broken down like this, and like this. So let's go and do that. So we'll say summary P&L, and then we can say entity 1, entity 2. And then in order to automatically get in the accounts, there's two things we can do. We can either set up a cell reference like this to index all of the accounts that we have over in the custom chart of accounts here, like this. One second. So that way we automatically get these mapped accounts that we've built. If we don't want to do that for whatever reason, which I'll get to in a second for why we may not want to do that, we can also just type them in like this, and that will be fine. The problem is, like, now if we type in this value, you'll see that it breaks the cell reference up here, which can be annoying because we may want to build things down below. So there is a solution to this, of course. So now what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and copy this, and then we'll use paste special to paste in the values only. So now you type in something, this doesn't break. Cool. Okay, so let's do the next couple of steps. So let's just make this a little bit prettier, because we like that. And then what we will do is we'll create this month picker. So let's say month, and we can say like this. And we like to use the font called Inter because it makes the arrows look nicer. So we'll do that. And then we'll do a data validation to now grab the months in the underlying P&L. So we'll just do this in a little bit of a simplified version. There is we recommend a more robust version of this. But what we will do is we will just grab the months from here, and that will then give this to us into the drop-down menu here. So if we now select something, February, then you'll see that it shows up. Great. So now what we need to do is we need to wire up the formula that will give us the data for income, total income, COGS, and so on, and then get this to update in real time. So the formula that we will use to do this is a formula called sum product. And whilst you may have noticed that we mostly use a formula called index match in most of our templates, the reason why we can, but we don't want to use index match in this case is because the way index match works is that it's a great formula, but it's great for grabbing one value. So if we just wanted to grab, say, this specific number, that would be the right choice. But now the challenge is we need to grab the sum of these two numbers in order to create the value for the income for this given month. So in order to do that, we will use the sum product formula. So let's go ahead and write that. So we will say sum product. And what we want to do now is first we want to specify the range where we have all of the mapped accounts here. So we will mark this And then, as we just mentioned before, remember to do like this. So it goes through C11 through C, and it captures all future accounts. You'll see that now it goes through the whole column. We will then lock this. Then we will say equals to this value here, right? Because we want to say, we want to grab the income for this specific period. So we'll add a $sign to this here. That way we can drag down the formula automatically. We'll then close the parentheses, and then we'll say multiply that by. And then what we want to do is to choose the months now. So we'll select this column, or the row, sorry. And similarly, what we can do is, instead of, in case that we would, say we would extend this P&L to be until 2025 or so, what we can then do is we will say take D10 through 10, which means that now, if you can see here on the right-hand side, all the future values that will come in will automatically be grabbed by the formula. We will then lock this, and then we will say equals to, because now what we want to do is we want to grab the value for the corresponding month that we've chosen up here. We'll close this, and we'll just remember to lock this cell completely. And then we will say multiplied by. And then now what we want to do is we want to choose the area where we find these potential values in. And the area where we find the values in are inside the whole P&L sheet here. So we will select everything here. And then in the same principle, instead of doing D11 through R11, we will simply say D11 through R, because that way we will automatically grab any future values as well. We'll then lock this and close the parentheses. And then we're starting to get some data. Cool. So now what we want to do is we want to fact check, is this correct? And are we getting the right data? So to do that, what we can do is we'll look here and say January 2023. Then we'll go over here, and then we'll look at which are the accounts that we mapped to income for January 2023. And this is these two accounts. So what we can do is do a very quick, just double check that this is correct. $123,260,800. And this looks correct over here. So this worked right out the gate. Great. Have in mind, we also mess up formulas. It's not every day we get them right in the first pass. And messing up formulas is completely fine. It happens a lot. When that happens, everyone has seen ChatGPT by now, but we strongly encourage that you try to use this to correct your formulas. It is just incredibly helpful. You can see how much we're using it over here, and it just will make your life so much easier. So to show you a quick example of what you can do with it, let's say for whatever reason I made a mistake in this formula. Like, let's say, yeah, this I can't even do. Let's say I forgot to add the starting parentheses, and for some reason this is now not working. So let's now copy this and let's bring it over here and say, let's try to see if it can help us. So I have an issue in my formula. Can you help, please? Cool. So now let's see if it will actually do the job of getting this right for us. So P&L entity 1, P&L entity 2. Okay. And yeah. Okay. Come on. Okay. We'll get there. Okay. We'll not wait for the explanation, but now what we'll try is we'll just copy this and bring it back here. And let's see if our friends got it right. Yeah, looks like they did. So a great example of how useful this can be to fix your formulas. Just start using it. You'll be very happy. The only thing that you might notice is that it's actually done a little bit of an adjustment here to our formula, which is fine, but we prefer to keep it the way we did. So we'll just revert this to this way. Cool. Okay, so I'm just checking the questions here. So there is a question from LaShonda, sorry. Will the mapped column be overwritten as the reports refresh? Great question. So no. So let's show you how this would look like. So here we have the P&L. So basically, for everyone, the question is, when the report refreshes, will this column now be gone? Basically, like it would not be there anymore. The way to do this, let me just see if I see the screen here. So the answer to that question is no. So if we go up here now and refresh this report, so we'll select P&L entity 1, you'll now see that this column that we just created stays exactly where it is. If we do the same for entity 2 and we refresh, this mapped column will stay exactly where it is. And that's really why LiveFlow is so powerful to create these advanced customized financial models. And because you can do all of this stuff without the cell referencing references breaking. Cool. So let's go back here. So now what we've done is we've set up this formula. It works. So what we can do is copy this down, and we now get the correct values. There's just no values here yet because we haven't mapped anything. But now if we go over to entity 1 and we start mapping some stuff, so let's say this should go to COGS, or this should all go to COGS. Let's do like this. This should go to gross profit. This should go to expenses. This should go to expenses as well. There we go. And so now if we head back, we'll now see that we are starting to get some values in here because everything is updating automatically. Cool. So now all we need to do is just to wire up the same formula for the second entity. And we can do this in a way. We'll see if we can get it to work. I think we can, but I'll just try to cheat a little bit here. So I'll just copy this and bring this over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this because the sheet names, if you see down here in P&L entity 1 and entity 2, are named exactly the same besides that number. What we can actually do here, instead of having to write the whole formula again, so we can just change this to be entity 2, and entity 2. And this actually works right away, right out the gate. And if we click here, we'll see that it's still referencing the income, which it should, and it's referencing the month up here, which it also should. So let's copy and paste this down, and it works again. So now if we look at entity 2, we can now, this company has way less values, which is great. And we can now start to do a little bit of mapping again. So we can say COGS, and then we can say expenses. And then we can say expenses here. And let's see what else we have. We can just map net income for now. So we have something to show there. So now, whilst we're at this, one thing that I just want to highlight here is that this is very important when you do mapping, is in here, you'll see an example of where we have a nested account. So flights here is a sub account underneath travel expenses. And do not do this in your accounting, but in travel expenses here, which is the header of this, we have wrongfully allocated a lot of data to that, which normally shouldn't happen. But if this would be empty and would not have any data in it, what we always suggest is that keep this, don't map anything to the header, but map everything to the underlying account inside of that, because that's the one that will contain the data usually, right? And again, remember, if you map expenses to flights here, you should not map this total to expenses as well, because what will happen is it will then compute the value of these two numbers, right? So it will aggregate them. And if we had, say, $100,000 here, that will then actually be wrong, right? So just have that in mind. It's very important when you do these mappings for consolidation. Cool. So let's head back to the dashboard here. So now we have something that is now working. And if we change the toggle up here, you can see that everything is now updating live and setting up the dashboard. So I will not spend a whole lot of time on just making it pretty and doing all of this stuff for now. I'll just keep it like this and go to the next part. So what we want to do now is to do a summary P&L consolidated by month. So let's get started on this. So oh, that was maybe a little bit too much. There we go. So now what we want to do is we can do this a couple of ways. We can start by just plugging in this as a starting month. And I'll show you why this is actually very handy for your future dashboards when you do it like this. So one thing to note, if you've used LiveFlow before, you may have noticed that when we bring in the data, we bring it in, the months here are plain text. And this is quite important to have in mind, because if you're running an index match formula, you can't index match on dates that are plain text and vice versa. There is a formula called date value you can use to transform it, but we will not get into the details of that right now. So anyhow, I'm just going to write a formula here to give us the upcoming months automatically. So we will say text, then we will say end of month, and then we will specify the month we want to start with, say +1 to get the number of months we want to extend it by. Then we'll add a comma and say quotation marks. And now what we want to do is to specify what format we want this to look like. And we want it to be in month and then year. So we'll say MMM and then YYYY. And then you can start to see here, we get February 2023. So we'll close that and then do like this. So in case you're not familiar with end of month, it's a formula that helps us to take to look at the current month and then say current month, get us to the end of that month, and then add another month or two to it. If we change this to be 4, you see that it updates to May, right? So let's revert this back. So Feb, and let's do like this. So we can now go ahead and just drag this out. So we get to the end of the year. Now, the good thing about this is once you've set this up, you can now select a different month, and you'll then see the corresponding month for then updating automatically. And this just gives a lot more flexibility on your dashboards. Great. So now what we need to do is we can just copy paste these down and add a little bit of formatting. So now the goal is we need to combine this data with this data to give us the total. So we can actually just do this up here first and say sum, and we get the right amount. Okay, so now we need to do this down here. And the simplest way, funnily enough, before starting this webinar, I was actually in doubt myself on what is the easiest way to sum this value with this value. So I went into the GPT and I actually asked that, what is the recommended way to do this? And to my big surprise, it came back and said, all you need to do is just to add a plus sign and bring it together. There may be a much better way to write this formula. If so, let me know, and we'll be more than happy to take it into consideration. But for now, we will just do it like this. So we will copy this, and we will enter it here and hit enter. This is not done yet, but we'll just do this as a start. So now we have the value here. But now you may see that there is a problem, right? Because this is now referencing the account up in B5 and the month up in D2. So we need to fix that. So we'll adjust this to be starting in or referencing here. And we will do the same thing here so that it is referencing January 2023. Click enter. And then we need to do a little bit of work on this so that we can now drag it down. So what we will do is we will lock this cell and we will lock this this row, because that way we can then drag out the formula to the right. There we go. So now there's just the last part, which is that we need to plus it with the other part of the formula from the other entity. So let's do like this, and let's copy this again, or paste this again, sorry. And then now what we can do is simply change this to be entity 2 again, entity 2, and entity 2. And then to cross-reference that we're getting the right number, we have 124 million here, and we have 124 million here. So this is now adding up, and it's correct. There we go. Okay, so now we can actually go ahead and do like this and paste the formula, and we get all of the numbers right away in a consolidated level. If we go here and we change this to be another month, we'll see that the data over here is now updating. So if we change this now to be, say, starting in November, we see that we don't get any data for January 2024. And the reason for that is the underlying data reports here are not extended through 2024. So now, to give this an example of how this could work, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to update this report to a longer date range. So say start in 1st of Jan 2023 and end in the end of 2024. And I do apologize if this date format does not make sense to anyone. As you can hear, I am European, and I just do not get your Americans' date formats. It just does not make any sense. So I know that you're writing it in a different format. So let's update and refresh. And now we'll see what we get. So now we have the report extended through 2024, but there's no data in 2024 yet. But either way, let's go back here. And we don't have anything coming in here right now, but what we will do is we'll just see if we can actually get this to work, and we wrote all the formulas correctly. Let's add a few numbers manually. So you should not do this in your client's P&Ls. That is a quick way to get more revenue, but not recommended. And that worked. So now we are actually getting income for 2024, which we just generated $100,000 and $100,000 in total cost of goods sold. And you may have noticed that this line here is a bit useless. So let's get rid of that because we already have that. Cool. Okay, so now we didn't get to the same formatting, but we got to pretty much the same output. Now what you can do is you can take this, you can make it pretty. You can add a gross margin row if you would like, of course, and start working it and making it better from here. The last thing before we go to the questions, what we wanted to mention is there's really just a lot of power in if you want to create multiple levels of dashboards. A great example of this can be, say you're showing a report to a board. Very likely they will only want to see a report with something like this, like the main categories, and the sort of main metrics to look at, right? One question, Natalie. Yes, it is being. Will this be available offline? Had to look away for 10 minutes, and I know I missed some good stuff. Yes, you missed the great stuff. This will be available afterwards. Cool. So next up, yeah, sorry, where I was. So if you're presenting this to a board, they may want to look at it like this. If you're presenting this to the C-suite or management, they may want to look at it in a fashion that looks something like this, for where we have categories for sales and marketing, R&D, G&A, etc. And if you're presenting it to, the internal finance team, or you are the internal finance team, I bet you probably want to see all of the categories listed. So in order to do that, you can basically go ahead and create, hold on a sec. You can create two levels of mapping. So we can have an executive summary mapping, and maybe a financial reporting mapping, and a detailed mapping. So we'll not go in detail about this now, but this is just to show you the power of customization and flexibility when it comes to live reports with LiveFlow is you can build all of this inside your own Google Sheets for yourself, right? And again, to the question before of what happens when the data refreshes, let's go ahead and do that. So we'll refresh PL1. And you'll now see that these columns stays exactly where they are. And if we go to PL2, it will do the exact same thing. And the columns will stay exactly where they are again. Great. So now just to summarize what we've gone through. So we've gone through how to build a consolidated P&L for two entities to combine the data into a simple summary P&L chart using the mapping methodology. We've shown how to build a monthly overview of this, where we aggregate all of the entities together. And then we've briefly went through how you can build this into a report that can be shown both on a executive summary level like this, as well as on a financial reporting level like this. And you can, of course, do this on a more detailed level. The last thing I just wanted to tell you here is the reason why we find this so useful, even for our own models, is that you can define the name of these accounts completely yourself, right? So if you want, if you have a mapping methodology or a thing you want to call like whatever it could be, consolidate, that's a bad name, total revenue, maybe we already have that somewhere, but I'm using this as an example because I know there's often, if you're working with Canadian companies and US companies, there's often a discrepancy between those. And this gives you the flexibility to map accounts that do not have the same naming conventions across entities. So one thing we've seen a lot of people run into is when they want to consolidate is that they have 5 different entities. All of the accounts are named different things, and that can just be such an annoying process to go through and to rename all of them inside QuickBooks, for instance. So in order to do this easier, that is why we really recommend this mapping methodology, because it gives that flexibility. Having that said, we always recommend, of course, that you try to name all the GL accounts as consistent as you can. Okay, so that will be it for the sort of presentations. Please send any questions in the chat. There's already questions that came in now, which I will answer right away. All right, so give me one sec. So Dana is asking, I have 30 classes within one entity. Each class has over 100 different GLs. Will this software allow for the selection of class and upload automatically that specific data that applies to that class? Let me just have a thing. So is it possible? How can I let people speak?
Yeah, I think we need to change the settings after. Yeah.
I just want to get some more context on this one. Hold on. Q&A. Is there a setting here? Sorry. No? Okay. Okay, sorry. I cannot let you speak, so I'll try my best. Apologies. We'll take it offline. Anyways. So Dana, to answer your question, so if I got it right, the two things. So number one is we see this happen quite a lot, where for the consolidation, one doesn't have multiple QuickBooks accounts, but they have inside one QuickBooks, they have a whole bunch of classes that represent a different department, location, whatever have you. Easiest way to solve this, if I get your question correctly, is you can actually do the exact same thing as we did, but you can pull a P&L. Let me get one where there's a class inside. You can pull a P&L, filter that by a class, say like Los Angeles, say P&L by LA, bring that in, and then you can actually do the exact same thing. So here we have a P&L filtered by LA. So what we could do is we could add a mapped column here, and do basically, the same thing here. So map this to COGS and so on. And that way, I think you can, well, I'm pretty sure you can achieve the exact same thing if I'm answering the right question, or your question. So in terms of, you're also saying each class has over 100 different GLs. Yes, unless I don't understand the question, then it will be basically the same process. Run a P&L, filter it by class, and have that as each of the sheets, and then map the columns, even though there's hundreds of different GLs, just map them to a few summary accounts. Cool. Okay, next question. Will you send us a recording? Easy to listen to, but need to practice. Yes, we will. It will be sent in an email afterwards. And I highly recommend practicing, because for sure it's not learned over one quick webinar. Okay, Rob. Rob is asking, by the way, Rob, it's good to see you back here. Thanks for watching our webinars. Question unrelated to consolidation. Your templates are awesome, but when I customize them, I can't get rid of some of the formatting, e.g., for instance, cell color or bolding. So I get, say, a bold figure where it should not be. Yeah, great question. This is because we have tried to make the templates so good that they do not need any work on top of it, but sometimes they do. So let me see if I can find one just to show you how it works and what Rob is asking. In case anyone runs into this problem in the future, this can be very helpful for you. So over here, we have our mapped consolidation template. And what Rob is asking is basically, why do we automatically make some of these bold and some of these, not bold? And to show you an example of this is if I type in, I'll mess up the formula, so I can't do that. Yeah. Let me see how I can do this. Okay, no. So basically, Rob, the answer to your question is we have applied very kind of detailed conditional formatting to some of these columns. So inside here, you'll find that there is this custom formula. And what this says is, it says if the name inside of this column is, say, gross profit, if it is net operating income, if it is net income, and a few others, then make it into this color. So like, to show an example, if I now go crazy with this color and say, let's make it purple, you'll see that now this becomes purple. And this one also down here does. So that is the reason why you're running into this. A solution to this is you can come in and you can go ahead and just delete this custom formatting. That is likely the easiest way to do it. And then you can go in yourself and you can make bold what you want to make bold, etc. Or alternatively, you can take, of course, a shot at redefining the conditional formatting here. That is just a little bit more complicated, but it is actually not that difficult. So we can maybe create a separate guide on this later on. Great. Okay. And then last question for now, at least. Dana is asking, if we decided to pay for the software, do we receive help to set things up? Yeah, you definitely do that. And that is the key thing that the team at LiveFlow has spent so much time working on, is to build these templates and then help people to set them up. And because really, like, the thing we preach so much here is that LiveFlow is great for advanced financial reporting use cases, and because there's just so much flexibility that the software can provide. And this we know that setting these things up, like even for us, for our team, it has taken us a long time to figure out the capabilities of our own product, and we experience and find new use cases probably every day because of new things that come in. So we actually love to help out to set an initial model up, because it gives us also a lot of new ideas for what we can do with the product in the future to make it better for you. Cool. All right. Any further questions from anyone, or anything that we didn't cover good enough that would be helpful to touch a little bit on? That's hard to ask when, okay, there's one. Baha is asking, what is the help phone number or email? Someone else designer report and he left. needs an email. Okay, well, I will. You can email us. Let me see if I can type at. You can just email it to me here, and we'll figure it out. Great. Anytime. So don't spam me too much now. Okay, Natalie is asking, can these sheets be protected so the client? Yes. Sorry. Can these sheets be protected so the client can't accidentally mess them up? Yeah, that is an excellent question. So Google Sheets, for some reason, doesn't do a great job of promoting this feature, but it's really useful. So here we have the live P&L, and this brings in the live data. Here we have the exec summary, and it can very often happen that you give this to a client or someone else, and they come in here and they decide to be a little bit creative and delete half the formulas. And then, you need to do the whole thing again of wiring it up, which we know is really annoying. To solve for this, you can use the protected sheets and ranges feature, where you can say, click here, and you can set the permissions to be either on a range level or on a sheet level. And let me tell you why you want to choose a range level for this specific use case. If we choose a sheet level, I can set permissions. I can say it's only me who can edit this. But now what happens is, if I want to come in and use this drop-down menu, I cannot use it because the whole sheet is blocked, right? I can do it still because I'm the one who's on it. But what you can do to solve for this, if you still want the client to be able to use these dynamic drop-down menus, is you can set the range to be on a range level instead. So you could say here, we want to protect the, let's do like this. We want to protect, for instance, this range, because that is the one that could potentially be messed up. Hold on. Why is it not grabbing it? Like this, yeah. So click OK, set permissions, and then you can say it's only me who can access this. Similarly, you can do it with this, and set permissions, and click done. Right. So now, if I share this with someone else, and they have access to this, the minute they click these ranges, they will not be able to do anything. But they can still use the drop-down menu here to change the data dynamically. Not sure if I can quickly show this. Let me. I just want to see if I can quickly show this, how it would actually look on the this. So let me see. I'll just pull up a. No, I need to be signed into another Google account. Okay. Anyways, probably get the point. But highly recommend then just locking the range. Great. Okay. There was a lot of things we went through. Does anyone have any more questions that would be helpful for us to touch on whilst we're here? Nope. One more. What YouTube videos you recommend? So we let me see if I can Google this. Yeah, we recommend this video, and we can link it in a description as well. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there's just a bit of ads, but this video we'll link it. We'll link it in the notes and the email afterwards. This is a video of that shows how to set this up. It's this video specifically, note it's not using the mapping methodology. It's using a methodology where if the names of all of the chart of accounts they match, we automatically match them. And if not, then we leave them as individual accounts. It's a different way to set it up, but it's actually a very good way and a handy way to learn more about this as well. So highly recommend watching this video to get more insights into this as well. Cool. All right. if anyone here is not yet on LiveFlow, then we'll just link put a link here in order to, if you want to set up a personal demo where we can show you more in depth on how to set up a consolidation model and other things that you can do with the product. Cool. If there's no more questions, then I think we'll call it a day. And hope you enjoyed the presentation. This was great, and hope you got something out of it. Cool.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
See you everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.